So, I said last episode was the best episode of Ahsoka so far, and now I immediately have to retract that because this episode completely blows that one out of the water. This episode gave us so much more than I expected it to, and I'm really happy about it. I said in my last video that I was hoping that most of this episode would be spent with Anakin and Ahsoka talking, and they talked, and they fought, and they did a lot of other stuff that I was not expecting, but yeah, this episode really, really good. Maybe that's just because of me being the gigantic Clone Wars shill that I am, but hey, I like what I like, and I enjoy Clone Wars to the highest degree. So, yeah, really good episode. Quickly, just to touch on there's two focuses of this episode: Anakin and Ahsoka, and Hera and Jason, and the other members of their little crew there, trying to find Ahsoka and Sabine and what happened there. So to quickly touch on that, I like that they're showing Jason being force sensitive. That was pretty obvious from, him being the son of a Jedi, but us being able to see like his connection to the Force and him already getting like a feel for it and stuff, pretty cool. I like it. Thought it was kind of weird that Hera was able to hear what was going on in the other realm with Ahsoka and Anakin. I don't know. She's not force sensitive, so I don't really get how she was able to hear what was going on. But regardless, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. So then they spend the majority of their time trying to figure out what happened to Ahsoka and Sabine. Meanwhile, in the other realm, we have Ahsoka and Anakin finally touching base with each other and having being able to talk since Rebels. And I mean, that was Anakin, but you could argue this is their first time as Anakin and Ahsoka interacting since Clone Wars. So there's a lot to unpack there, and they unpack a lot of it. It's cool to see Hayden jump into basically picking up where Clone Wars left off in their relationship, and he nails it. No issues there at all. He feel their back and forth feels really good. The way that he kind of talks to her and the way that he kind of mentors her throughout this episode, really good. It feels like Clone Wars Anakin. It feels like their relationship. He nails it. I know that he said in interviews before that he has watched Clone Wars to prepare for not only Kenobi, but I'm assuming now this. And yeah, he just does a phenomenal job. There's so much to talk about. Their first interactions, him basically being oh, well, I didn't teach you anything. I'm here to continue your training. That's kind of really the only thing that I have a weird qualm with, kind of, because what exactly was he trying to teach her? Because we see basically their whole interaction is them talking for a little bit, just kind of touching base again, and then Anakin basically testing her to be all right, well, is your resolve strong enough to go back to the side of the living? implying that she kind of died, but this is like her chance to go back, basically. So they have a lightsaber fight, and then it cuts to, not cuts, but like he basically like forces her back into like a memory, back into the past of one of their first missions, and we see young Ahsoka, and the actress who plays her does a phenomenal job as well. Her voice, I don't know, her voice kind of seemed off to me. Maybe it was just because I'm so used to how she sounds now, but either way, really, really good. Feels like Ahsoka, does a really good job. I wish they kind of specified where they were, just so that way we kind of understood it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. They do kind of like touch on a little mini arc thing, or I guess a lesson that Ahsoka had to learn in a Clone Wars episode where she's leading a mission and she makes a decision that gets most of her squad killed. And they kind of do that same thing here, but it's not the exact same thing that happened in Clone Wars, which is fine, it doesn't matter. But just kind of revisiting that is kind of cool. And Anakin is there, like, talking to her, being like, and leading her through like this memory, being like, okay, well, I was trained during peace times, like I was brought up to like be a quote unquote proper Jedi. Now I had to teach you how to be a soldier and how to survive and how to be able to like deal with all this hardship and death. And it's not easy to like lead a squad and like have people's lives in your hands, and sometimes we make the good calls, sometimes we make the bad calls, and we have to kind of learn from that and try to make the better decisions later on, which is cool. And then we actually get to see Ahsoka leading the charge on the Siege of Mandalore for a little bit, and Anakin's like, oh, I don't recognize this place, and she was like, you wouldn't because you weren't here. Like, this was when we last saw each other, or this was right after we last saw each other. And she talks about how like her legacy is war and death, basically, which again isn't wrong, because, and it's not entirely her fault, because she's the apprentice of arguably the greatest like war hero, not even arguably, Anakin is the greatest war hero of the Clone Wars. That is one of his main like titles during that era. So, and then after what happens to him, like, and then like him turning into Vader and hunting down the Jedi and stuff, and then her trying to survive, continue on with like his, like the teachings that she learned from him, and trying to survive in this harsh environment during the Empire, and then now post Empire still trying to like lead the best that she can and try and survive through what's going on now. And Anakin's like, you still don't get it. And he does this really cool thing where he gets his Sith eyes and his lightsaber turns red, and they fight for a minute, and then he kicks her back into like the realm, out of the memory and back into like the realm that they were before. And there's this quick flash of Anakin like walking towards her and like turning into Vader. And so I think that the lesson that he's trying to teach her is to like kind of get over what happened and try to like be the best that you can be now. But it's not very clear, because they're fighting, and as the fight progresses, like he's getting more and more aggressive towards her, and obviously like trying to kill her. And there's a moment where they're locking blades, and Ahsoka's eyes like turn yellow, and it kind of stays there for a minute, and Anakin stares, and then she shakes it off, and then she's able to like disarm and basically win their little duel. Maybe that, now that I think about it, I've kind of had like a little epiphany. Maybe that's more so what he was trying to teach her, is that because they make it a point a couple of times while they're talking and stuff to be like, oh, like Anakin says something to the effect of like, all I am is inside of you, like all of my teachings and everything that I am is inside of you. And she's like, well, if everything that you are is inside of me, then that includes the Vader part too. And I guess that's where like the Sith, okay, that, you know, that makes a lot more sense now. We got there, it clicked, or at least that's my current interpretation of it now, because now that makes a lot more sense because obviously Ahsoka would have had a lot of baggage and stuff from fighting Vader and who Anakin became and all of that, and she's had to carry that for a while. And now what I'm assuming is she's been scared of potentially walking the same road as her master, and so now this is kind of her like awakening thing to be like, hey, take all the best parts of me, learn from my mistakes, don't walk the exact path that I followed, take what's best and forge your own path. So that makes a lot more sense now. So okay, we're here now. But yeah, all the Clone Wars flashbacks basically, their duel, their interactions. There's actually, what is it? She says a line that she says in Rebels where it was like, I won't fight you. And I'm pretty sure that's what she says in Rebels. It's either I won't fight you or I won't leave you. It's one of those, but it's a callback to Rebels. And then if you're listening to the music during certain parts of like the flashbacks and their duel and stuff, you can hear what sounds like, to me at least, like the ending tunes of like the Clone Wars finale, like that somber piano or whatever it is, I don't know, but like what's playing during Ahsoka dropping her lightsaber and standing in front of all of like the clone graves, basically, like that really somber type of melody, like musical track, which I loved. That is a beautiful touch to this episode. So Ahsoka goes back to the land of the living. Hera and the rest of them find her, and they basically have no way to track Sabine. Ahsoka uses the Force. This is kind of like a thing taken from the what is the game called? Why am I blanking on the name? Not Jedi Survivor, but the one before it. Fallen Order. Jesus. It's kind of taken from Fallen Order, where she like holds the destroyed map in her hand, and she can kind of like is doing a playback of what happened, pretty much, which is cool. I like that. And then the space whales, the hyperspace whales, kind of show up, and Ahsoka has a plan to try and communicate with them to try and take her to where Sabine and the others went to hopefully find Ezra and stop Thrawn. And that's pretty much where we leave off. So overall, really good episode. I'm actually really happy that I figured out a better I'm blanking on my words, but basically I'm happy that I was able to interpret like the lesson Anakin was trying to teach her a lot better, because at the end of the episode I'm like, okay, well, what was he trying to teach her? But now talking through it and kind of like going over everything, it clicked. So maybe you have a different interpretation. Maybe that's just my interpretation of it now, going through all this and talking about it to you guys. If you guys have another way of interpreting it, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Overall, what did you think of this episode? I think it's very easy to say that this is the best episode, and could be potentially the best episode of the series depending on how the rest of it goes. But I'm a big Clone Wars shill. I love that series. In fact, I want to do a rewatch of it here soon, and probably Rebels right after it. But I love Clone Wars, so all of this callbacks to Clone Wars, Anakin and Ahsoka finally meeting up again after all this time and kind of going through everything that happened, but going through everything that happened, like, big fan. So overall, really good episode. Again, the best episode so far. And yeah, those are my thoughts. Make sure you guys leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I'd love to hear it and talk about it with you guys. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And yeah, that'll do it for me. So be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.